this morning's session. I want to welcome all of you to the More Stories of the Secret City. And okay, Alexi is joining us now, and I will set him up to share his screen, and we will get started. Just a moment. Good morning, Alexi.
Good morning.
I have made you a co-host, so you can share your screen when you're ready, and we're glad to have you with us.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I hope you remember a little bit of what we talked about last time, a week ago, but let me have a little quiz. Do you remember by any chance what are the types of Russian closed secret cities that we have today? How are they classified? What are the groups? We're putting them in groups depending on their function or depending on their, I would give you military or industrial affiliation. Do you remember any of that? I think Jackie is talking, but she's muted. Did I?
One classification was submarines.
Okay, submarines would, that is true. And that would go into what group?
Oh my. You'll have to clarify.
Okay. So anyone else wants to try? So submarines is a good question. Submarines, something to do with the military, Navy or military would be one group, right? And then there was another group that had to deal with what?
Nuclear.
Absolutely. So then there would be one to deal with nuclear, either production, development, research. Okay. And the third group, okay, we're almost there. We have 3 total. And the third group was the missiles. Okay, missile sites. Anti-missile defense or offense, depending on how you look at it. Okay, so today we are going to I'll take you over a few of those places, give you a little bit more detail so you have an idea what they are. I already showed you a picture of one of them. Let me see. Okay, here we go. So that was one of them, Zagworsk. Okay, that was where they're manufacturing plutonium. And the funny story about this idyllic place was that at one point they figure out that somebody is stealing plutonium and they had no idea who it was. And of course, the first thing they thought was that it was some foreign agents, but it was just an employer who kept it in a jar in his kitchen. And when caught and apprehended, he told that he was stoking up on this to deal with his mother-in-law. So things do happen, and sometimes they're comical. But of course, when we are talking about plutonium, it's not a safe stuff to keep in your apartment. So that's how the city looks like. The actual manufacturing is underground in a rocky formation outside by the river. So really, if you fly over Zheleznogorsk, you would not see much. The other name of it was Krasnoyarsk 26. Do you remember that I said that those places, those cities, they really did not have a name. They would have a mailbox number. So Krasnoyarsk is a big city not far from Zheleznogorsk. So they cut out postal code 26, and everybody who was supposed to know knew that Krasnoyarsk 26 was actually all the mail is going to the secret city of Zheleznogorsk. Here is another one that is Kapustin Yar, which was first launched, and the build-up started in 1946 when it was supposed to be a place for testing the first first Soviet ballistic missiles, and it is it's actually it has a long history, and the guy who was in charge of it was extremely respected. He did tons for the people working there, and it's one of those I would say unique combinations when the person in charge was like a really good manager and really managed to keep the place really happy. People were genuinely sad when he passed away. There is a monument to him, and his name was Vasily Voznyuk. He was there from the very beginning. He started it. He was the mayor or the commander-in-chief. I don't know what the position is called. There since 1946. Another thing is to know about Kapustin Yar is that's where Belka and Strelka, the two dogs that were launched into space, that's where they were trained, groomed, selected for that, and they also have little monuments to the dogs in Kapustin Yar. Right now, you actually can go to a museum. If you go and visit Kapustin Yar, you can go to a museum. The city is now open. The launching pad for missiles, of course, is not, but the city itself is not off limits to Russians. Okay, this is another one called Ozyorsk. Again, it's next to the city of Chelyabinsk. So the code name was Chelyabinsk 40. That is where another nuclear disaster happened before Chernobyl in 1957. I think it was, if Chernobyl was number one, then this was number two. Of course, it was before Chernobyl, but it was almost as big. When it happened, plutonium escaped. There was a humongous cloud that lasted 180 kilometers. And although there were no immediate casualties because the explosion happened on Sunday, there were, of course, casualties later on because of the genetical issues. People were born with deformities, and the area of 20,000 square miles was affected, and all the villages in the path of this cloud had to be evacuated and razed. And again, this was a secret city, 1957. Nobody knew it existed. So nothing of this was known until perestroika and until the archives were open. That was a tragedy. Okay, now we're going to Saroff. Saroff is actually a major nuclear research place with utmost security. I mean, it was like like nobody knew what it was, which is funny because Saroff from the old days, and still it had a very cherished, a very respected monastery, and was a center of Russian Orthodox spiritual life. And people would go there from old days. People would want to go there on pilgrimage. And then after World War II, the city was closed off, and there was, you couldn't go and pray and show respects to the elders, monastic elders. Okay, I'm trying to. Oh, here's I put together. So I found this. This is Saroff's coat of arms. So it has a combination, interesting combination of Russian Orthodox belfry, some animal life, and of course the sign for nuclear next, right there. Okay, this is another secret city, Zagworsk, which is now kind of like they're talking about it more because it was it had microbiology research facilities, and I heard some rumors that maybe they had some knowledge of the COVID virus before it actually started, that they were that they were aware of it. I know that they over there they had they had a story when an Indian delegation, it actually, the microbiology research started by fluke because it was visited in the 50s, I think, by a group of Indians, and they had, I forgot what was it called, but they had some contagious disease, some serious contagious disease. So they started looking into it and found a cure. And that was the beginning of microbiology development. Right now you have an atomic research museum in Zagworsk, and they have this big on display, the Tsar bomb, like we have a Tsar bell in the Moscow Kremlin, the humongous bell that was so big that it just cracked when it was made, and it was never used to toll. But by association now, the humongous Tsar bomb that Khrushchev was boasting about when he said, "I will, we will show you," when he was banging the shoe on during his speech at the United Nations. He didn't name it, but that's what he was alluding to. That was this humongous atomic bomb was there. Okay, so next on my, what is this? Okay, that's a uranium. That's another area near Sverdlovsk. Sverdlovsk is in the middle of the Urals, and quite a few secret cities were there. Oh, this one is interesting. So this is part of the unique underground plant to fix submarines. It is in Crimea, which is back in Russia these days. And I remember vacationing there one summer, literally like within a few kilometers, and I would pass this huge rocky outcropping into the Black Sea, and I would not know that Underneath, there was a secret tunnel, so the submarines could go in underwater, come to surface inside the mountain, be fixed or refurbished, and then go out. And that was a pretty, by the scale of this operation, it was unique. I don't think there is anything close to this in the world. Now they turned it into a museum. You can actually go and visit it. And one more picture. Oh, this shows you the extent of the pollution that happened during this 1957 accident in Kyshtym or Ozyorsk, and that shows you the extent of the spread of the cloud. This picture is the city of Severomorsk, which is on the Kola Peninsula, close to, not too far from Murmansk, and very close to the Norwegian border, where a major Russian Navy base is. And now, considering the push for exploration of the Arctic and claiming pieces of the Arctic for oil and gas, I think this base gets a little bit more activity because Russians are getting more active in the Arctic Ocean. And I think yesterday on BBC, I read about B-2 bombers being deployed in Norway, kind of like to try to balance things out. I'm sorry, that's about all the time I have for now. I have to go, but I hope you get an idea. The places are still there. Some of them, as I showed you in the beginning on the map, are known. Some of them are still unknown, and we don't know. We can't talk about what we don't know. There are a total of 44 secret installations of this sort right now in Russia, and by now you should have at least some superficial idea of what they are. I will, if you have any questions about secret cities that I can try to answer, please pass your questions to Ray via email, and I will reply to every single question you may have, but it has to be more about what we're talking about rather than Russia or Soviet Union in general. Okay.
Thank you, Alexei.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Okay. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was a treat for sure that I hope you enjoyed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he is a world of knowledge about those secret cities. Now, we also have on here Steve Oliphant. And Steve, I don't know if you've got your camera working or not, but if you're on now, can you speak up and let us know you're here?
Well, I'm here. Good morning, Ray. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. And
okay, so now I got to get my camera working because everybody wants to see what I look like.
I understand that we would like to get to view your face, but if we can't, we'll go with just your voice and let you tell us the stories that you would like for us to know about the hiking in Oak Ridge. Now, you need to know that Dan Robbins is on here this morning. Dan,
okay, hey, Dan.
Dan is the one that you know very well. We're seeing your screen now, by the way.
Okay, so you can't see me, but you can see my screen.
I can see your screen, can't see you, but we know that's you right in the front of the picture. Okay.
Okay.
So
well, this is me right here.
Yeah, we're good to go. Go ahead and just share sharing your screen. Just go ahead and tell us what you would want us to know about hiking and history in Oak Ridge. So take it away.
Okay. So can everybody see 210 Madison Avenue right there at the Alexander Guest House?
No, we still see the picture of you and the hiking group.
Okay, right, that at the Alexander Guest House with
I
like
can't,
40 people there
I can see a lot of people, but I don't see the guest house.
behind it. Okay. Okay, it says 210 over the door right there.
No, we're only seeing that large group with you kneeling in front. So
Oh,
you're
okay.
sharing that screen, not the one you think you're sharing.
Okay, so let's go to that one. Okay, this one right here. That's me kneeling with the dog next to me.
Now you may need to
Yes.
unshare your screen and share it back again to get to what you want to show us.
Okay, I see. Like a new share.
Yeah, and I see your mouse moving over it now.
Okay. Okay, how about this right here? The
Yeah.
guest
I got
house.
it. Now
Okay, are we at the
yeah,
guest house?
we see the guest house now, yes.
Well, good morning. I'm Steve Oliphant. I grew up at Oak Ridge, and I'm the founder of an Oak Ridge hiking group called Secret City Hikes. And Oak Ridge has over 100 of hiking trails. And if I don't know you personally, you probably knew my mother. My mother knew everybody in town, or my father. They were early residents of Oak Ridge during the 1940s. So as Dan and others would know we not only have some of the best hiking trails in the Southeast. I'm a Smoky Mountain 900 miler, so I've hiked probably 10,000 miles in the Smokies. But we, unlike the Smokies, or like the Smokies, or maybe even more, Oak Ridge hiking trails have unparalleled hiking history, unparalleled history on the trails. And the reason I would say that, and just let me know, Ray, if you're not hearing me, okay? Speak up. The reason I would say that about Oak Ridge hiking is that not
Steve,
only
we are hearing you fine, and we're still seeing the guest
Okay.
house. So I think everything's geared up to go. So take
Okay,
off.
good.
I'm sorry
Okay.
to interrupt.
All right. Okay, so it includes not only Manhattan Project history, of course, as in the guest house photo here, going back, what, 79 years now? I'm sure we have a lot of people well versed in Manhattan Project history, but also history all the way back to antebellum history and Revolutionary War history, a lot of early Revolutionary War land grants and purchases in the Oak Ridge area for land and large farms and plantations, but also British Empire history, going back to the beginning of the United States of America. Oak Ridge was on the Wild West frontier of the British Empire and the newly won United States of America in the 1780s, and also Native American history. So other very historic towns like, of course, Los Alamos, New Mexico, where many of us have lived or worked, or Hanford, Washington, would not have that layered history, came into the United States later, where the state of Tennessee was part of the original 13 colonies of North Carolina. So you have all that history. And what's unique about Oak Ridge also is, unlike the Smokies, if somebody sold their land to the National Park Service, they could go back and see their land as a visitor, as a citizen of the United States. Much of the land in Oak Ridge, when the land was sold quickly during the Manhattan Project, you couldn't go back for 50 years or more, unless maybe you had a burial in a cemetery and you were supervised. So there was this 50-year period of much of our Oak Ridge hiking trails, like in Haw Ridge on North Boundary and North Ridge, that was behind a gate for a long time, to the 1990s, especially on North Boundary and some of the trails like that. So now, for the first time in the last few years, you can go in and find artifacts and get history of many of the people that lived on this land before Oak Ridge, and have some very fascinating. So we have a hiking group, and this was our last hike before COVID. This was last February in front of the Alexander Guest House, if you're still seeing this. So Ray has come and graciously spoken to us on several of our hikes. I started this group about 2 years ago because I had a lot of friends say, you post all the time about the Smokies, and you post all the time about Frozen Head, and you post all the time about the Big South Fork, but you don't ever say anything about Oak Ridge. And I actually still own my parents' house in Oak Ridge, so I've been hiking these trails. I've become a history hiker myself. I've been hiking these trails since the 1970s. I was a basketball player in high school and at Roane State. I'm a 1981 graduate of Roane State Community College in Herman 40 years ago. So I've been hiking the trails and training on the North Ridge Trail since the 1970s. That is absolutely the best training trail for a basketball player or for many sports for balance and coordination that I've seen in the United States. So let me just get in here and share a few more things and we'll get started here. So I'm going to show this group right here. It's new share. So Ray, let me see if you see the new share here.
We do not, yes, we do. We see the group with you kneeling in front.
Okay. So Dan Robbins may know better, but I think this picture right here with me kneeling in front, that's Ray to my right there. And Wiley Peck's dog, if you've seen that picture, this is at the North Boundary Check Station near Wisconsin Avenue.
Yes, that's
in
it.
September. Yeah, September 2019. This may be, Dan or others may know better, but I think this might be the largest hiking group that's ever been in Oak Ridge. We had over 60. You know, there may have been a bigger group, of course, but this would be one of the largest ones. This is my class of 1979 high school reunion, a 40th reunion last year. So that proves that I've been around here for 40 years. And Ray was very gracious. And this was the highlight. We put this on the agenda for our class reunion to have a group hike. And I thought maybe 10 people would show up. So about 10 days ahead of time, I looked at the guest list and it had 80 on it. I thought, uh-oh, we can park 10 cars. And this was an amazing story because the whole neighborhood helped us park cars. We parked cars at First Christian Church. We parked cars in front of houses of friends that we knew, and nobody really even knew we were there. You know, it was handled extremely well. It shows that Oak Ridge has hiking trails that you can take 60 people on and not bother anybody. I think I couldn't do this in the Smokies. I would never take a group of 60 people in the Smokies. That's too much of an impact on trails and other hikers. But many of these trails here at North Boundary near Wisconsin Avenue are gravel. In fact, one part of the old Emory Road, the first public road through the state of Tennessee, before the state of Tennessee. So you have an incredible history hike there. Okay, so let me just share a few more things here. And just stop me if you have any questions and I'll get into, let's see, let me just mention this right here about some of our hikes. I wish I could see you and you could see me. Okay, now is this a new share?
It is, and we're inside the chapel on the hill.
Okay, good. So we're inside the chapel on the hill. My parents, this is fascinating. I think probably everybody knows a lot about the chapel on the hill, but it's on the Cedar Hill Greenway, as is the Alexander guest house. If my memory is correct, Dan would know better. This was the first Greenway, Greenbelt type trail from the early 1990s from the state of Tennessee hiking grant, and of course the city of Oak Ridge. And it's a fascinating urban hiking trail. We took you saw the picture of 40 people on it. It goes by the Alexander guest house, Chapel on the Hill, Pine Valley School, the old Cedar Hill School playground, right back through Blankenship football field and the underground tunnels that go under the football field and that were mysteriously written about in Bones of Betrayal in the book. There's an underground hiking trail too in Oak Ridge. That's an amazing story and legend. But here's David Hobson. He opened the church for us. This might have been one of the first tours where we went inside the Alexander guest house with Ray. We went inside the chapel on the hill with David Hobson there on the left with me. My parents were married here in 1952 in a fascinating photo that has the Torah closet back there where the cross is. The Torah closet, of course, holding the Ark of the Covenant when the Jewish faith worshipped here with all the other faiths back in the 1950s. So David took us through an excellent tour, and this was a beautiful day last February. This was our last hike because this week last year, we went into a lockdown all around the country. So we haven't been able to have a hike. I'll share our next hike when I get to the next screen. But and then we had about 40 people inside the chapel on the hill here, and we have, let me just pick up one more picture here if I can do this, if this works okay. So let me do a new share here. So hopefully, Ray, let me know if you're seeing our nice patches.
Oh, we do see the patches, yes.
Okay, good. So one of the projects, we wanted to have a project for this group, something that we could contribute to the community. And one thing that I had wanted to do for years is to design hiking patches for many of the trails in the Smokies for specific hikes. I have a hiking group in the Smokies called Minor Hikes, and we focus on going to a lot of old copper mines and gold mines and kind of tell the history of Smokies through mining and natural resources. But one of the reasons it's a national park is, of course, to stop mining and logging, that type of thing. So we talk about that history. But one of the things we wanted to do is design patches. One, I wanted to get experience designing patches because it's not easy to take a picture and put it on a patch. This takes a lot of work. We're good at it now, but the first one we did was the Cedar Hill Greenway Chap on the Hill patch. We have a limited edition of 100 patches, and they're almost gone now. They've been very popular. When I first did it, I thought I probably shouldn't be doing this, as this is kind of unofficial. It's not really, I didn't really get anybody's permission to do this because I was, trying to learn how to do this type of artwork. But when we pass these patches out, they've been really popular. I only have just a couple left. We could reorder real easily. But I'm fortunate to be able to get these at a very good price in very small quantities from China, from a group that I work with in China. I just give them plenty of time, and they sometimes they take 4 to 6 weeks. But you can see, so we're planning to do about 15. The third one I did was the mysterious, I think one of my favorite history and mystery hikes in the entire Southeast. I've hiked probably 20,000 miles in the Southeast in the last 40 years. It's almost 500. I try to hike 20 miles twice a month every month, so roughly 500 miles a year. It's just my hobby. One of my favorite history and mystery hikes in the entire Southeast is the Haw Ridge Silo. So you can see that second patch there. It's the color of Haw Ridge, the kind of Halloween colors of Haw Ridge Park, if you're seeing that. It was built after 1942 when the Army Corps of Engineers acquired the land from the Jones family. There's still a Jones house bungalow. That's the new headquarters of the Clinch Valley Trail Alliance in Haw Ridge Park. So the Jones family at least told Ray and I, if I'm saying this correct, Ray, that silo wasn't there when they sold the land. Then in 1960, yeah, is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. So then in 1960, when the waters around it were impounded and flooded from Milton Hill Lake and the roads to it were cut off, it was abandoned. So somewhere between 1942 and early 1960s, this giant commercial, this is not a silo that you would see on a small farm in Oak Ridge. There are some that are wonderful for individual farms, silo ruins, but they're nothing like this one. This is a commercial scale silo with a very big cattle and dairy ranch attached next to it that's in ruins with 5-mile round trip from the parking area in Haw Ridge Park. So this has become our favorite hike, Ray. Everybody in the group wants to come here, and these patches have gone quickly too. And when we get out there, they say, this is amazing. There's this massive silo that is something like you would see in Wisconsin. You can tell it was built by what looks like agricultural engineers. That's just standing there in pretty good condition with a big ruins and foundations from a cattle ranch and dairy farm. And then you can see the next one is the check station. That one turned out great. I've been driving by that West End check station in Wisconsin Avenue on the turnpike since I was 3 years old. And I can remember seeing that cool searchlight above that pillbox machine gun nest at these 3 check stations in Oak Ridge. This is amazing now that it's got Ed Westcott photos in it. You can reserve it, I believe, Ray, if you, for meetings, part of the Department of Energy or the plants, that type of thing, because it would be an excellent place for meetings. And Ray has spoken to us inside the check station, taking it in. When I first started the group, I called Ray out of the blue. Ray used to work with my dad at Y12 and at the National Lab, but I had never met Ray. And I just said, we're thinking about having a class reunion, a hike here, and we'd like to do a trial run with another hiking group. Do you have any idea if there's anybody in Oak Ridge that has a key to that check station? And is that something that the public can see? And Ray called me back and says, oh yeah, I've got a key to it. And so, Ray's got a key to pretty much everything in Oak Ridge. Except maybe that next one, the Roberts Trade Post is in the East Fork Riparian. I'm also a graduate of Robertsville Junior High when it was a junior high in 1976. So I've always been fascinated with not only Robertsville, Tennessee, but the colors of the Robertsville Rams, which are red and white. I played basketball at Robertsville. And I've always been fascinated by the story of the Key and Lockett stores and the Crossroads Tavern that's in old downtown Robertsville, which is on Robertsville Road and Raleigh Road today. There's still an old ruins building there from the Lockett store, the new Lockett store. from 1942, which was the bus station, the gas station in Oak Ridge before the Manhattan Project. It was the crossroads of Highway 61 and 62, I believe, right there. So that was like Illinois and the Turnpike is today. Robertsville Road and Raleigh Road were the crossroads of this area, you know, back before the Manhattan Project. So the old Lockett store was the original Collins Roberts Trade Post, built around 1804, the first settler of the area, and the namesake, of course, of Robertsville. So I'll talk just a little bit. My time's probably about up here, but you can see we have some other patches there. So let me, Ray, if it's okay, just share and let's see if I can share here. My big screen. I wanted to share our Facebook page if that would be okay.
Yes, that would be good.
Okay, great. So if I can get up here and figure out how to do it. I'm going to try to share our Facebook page so you can see where to find us. And it's in there somewhere. Well, first, let me just.
Once you get it up, you'll just need to do a new share.
Okay. It says my screen sharing is paused. Let me do a new share. Okay, share. Okay, so let me know if you can see the Greenway's map, Ray.
Yes, we're seeing the Greenway's map.
Okay, so if anybody has questions, you probably have a lot on that are hikers in Oak Ridge. If you haven't, there's a trail for everyone in Oak Ridge. They're anywhere from half a mile to, you could easily do 30 miles in Haw Ridge and never hike the same trail twice. So this brochure can be found at Explore Oak Ridge at the Oak Ridge Visitor Center and probably with Oak Ridge Parks and Recreation. And here's the map of Oak Ridge that shows where all these hiking trails are. Dan Robbins and many others would be the ones who put the most effort into this. And I think it's amazing. So you can see all the way from Big Turtle Park on, we have a patch for that has the first church in Roane County, Tennessee from 1801, which is East Fork Missionary Baptist Church, which was next to the East Fork Cemetery, this very impressive cemetery on Newcastle Road, right in the middle of subdivision, nice subdivision. But as you can see right there, that's the Roane-Anderson County line at an old historic survey spot called the Double Springs, one spring in Roane County and one spring in Anderson County. So that was a survey meet, which is those two springs have been covered over by the Oak Ridge Turnpike today, but they drain into East Fork at the end of an old beaver pond on the Big Turtle Greenway. So you have trails all the way, that trail's maybe less than a mile, all the way to this incredible Northridge Trail that you see up here at the top. That's one of the harder hiking trails in the state of Tennessee, especially if you're doing an in and out 16 miles there, that will have you trained for any trail in the state of Tennessee, including the Smokies. If you can do that in and out, you can do anything. And then, but most of these are set up through Greenway's Oak Ridge that are trails through the old Greenways, which were designed from the original designers of the city. And between roads like California Avenue and Outer Drive in Delaware and East Drive. And then there's an Emerald Valley, Worthington Cemetery, Melton Lake. Melton Lake has had over $1 million of investments into it to have that beautiful hiking and biking and skating greenway that goes along the Clinch River and Pellissippi River. And then there's our namesake Haw Ridge Park and the beautiful North Boundary Trail connector out here with so much unexplored mystery out here to the west of the city. Those trails connect to Wheat District, and then shortly after that to the newer Heritage Greenway at the K25 site. You can actually walk right up to the new K25 Museum, which is on the Greenways, and just look right into the old foundations of K25. At one time, the largest building in the world. It's on a hiking trail today. It's amazing how accessible. I still feel like I shouldn't be there, like somebody's going to arrest me, you know? So Ray, I'm probably out of time. Tell me if I have much more time or if there's any questions that you have. Let me just mention where you can find us. We're on Secret City Hikes. We make it a private group, and the reason for that is we kind of screen everybody. So everybody on here is interested in the group. We don't have any spam bots. We don't have any of the usual things you see on Facebook that make you cringe. We've never had a complaint about a post or a person. I'm also an admin of Appalachian Trail Section Hikers with 40,000 members, and we get 20 complaints a day. We've done this for 2 years. We've never had a complaint. So here you see a beautiful picture of the L&N Railroad Bridge that was prophesied by John Hendricks before the Manhattan Project and built by Paul Elza. So that's some of the history that we talk about when we go to those trails. That's a photo from my friend high school friend Ed Adair, who's the photographer for Oak Ridge National Laboratory. And let me just mention our next hike, Ray, and then I'll be through.
All right.
To walk through Robertsville. Okay. Am I over my time?
No, you're good. Fine. Go right ahead.
Okay. Okay. So our next hike is our first. We had a brief hike back in August, but that was kind of with masks, with COVID. That was kind of awkward. So this is our first hike. So we hope we don't have any more issues with that. But we're calling it a walk through Robertsville. This is our first hike since August, and our first real organized hike like this, where I send out an invitation. Our first hike since that, the one to Cedar Hill and Chap on the Hill last over a year ago, last February. So this is going to be Saturday, April 9th, the walk through Robertsville. And you have a picture there of you can go inside the Jefferson Tavern today, a smoke-filled tavern, and see the old ticket booth for the Jefferson bus terminal. It's fascinating. There's historic. So anybody who wants to go, that's actually on the new trail called the new S Trail on Oak Ridge. It's almost a year and a half old probably. Called the East Fork. It's got the coolest name, East Fork Riparian. Everybody who goes on it learns a new word in their vocabulary. Riparian. It means an environment next to a creek. And the creek is very historic. It's East Fork of the Big Poplar Creek, which runs right down through East Fork Valley, which is the historic valley of K25 in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. And 20 years ago, 30 years ago, due to discharge from Y12, nobody really knew what its fate was. Could you even get near it? And now there's a trail right by you. You're not supposed to get in it, but you can get within a couple of feet of it. And this beautiful creek has been restored. It's just a wonderful success story for Oak Ridge. But here's our invitation right here, all secrets, and anybody can join us. We just ask 3 questions to make sure you're not a robot, just kind of like signing into your bank account online. All Secret City Hike group members are welcome to our first group hike. We're going to go down East Fork Riparian. We hope this may or may not work because this is exactly on the trail, but we're going to cross this mysterious bridge that's on East Fork that I call the Coach Winston Russell Bridge. He was my and many of our coach for football and PE at Robertsville for years and years, and he went there as a student. So he knows everything about the athletic history of, more than anyone would, of Robertsville Junior High and Middle School. So here you can see, but the great thing is, I just posted this array at 10 o'clock last night. We've already got 24 going plus about 10 guests. So we're almost full. We got 35 people signed up. So most of our hikes fill up in the first day or two, but we can take a lot of people on this hike. We're going to circle back through Jefferson Bus Terminal, Jefferson Soda Fountain. We're going to maybe see if they can give us some takeout, small takeout sandwiches. Go by the Collins Roberts grave in the Robertsville Cemetery, next to the old Robertsville Baptist Church, behind Willowbrook School, and then circle back to Robertsville Middle School. So Ray, I'm going to stop there. If you've got any more questions or anything for me, I hope everybody enjoyed seeing everybody's faces. And my businesses had a terrible impact from the ice storm in Texas. We had 3 fresh food supply chain plants shut down with the rolling blackouts. So I've got to get back to that. But Ray, let me know if anything else from me before I sign off.
Well, thank you very much, Steve, for a really good presentation on the history and hiking in Oak Ridge. If anyone has a question for Steve right now, just go ahead and unmute and ask your question. He'll stay with us just a minute more to answer any immediate questions you have. So if you have a question, just speak up.
You probably know, Steve, that if you hike all the trails in Oak Ridge, you get a Secret City Hikers certificate. They're given out by the Parks and Recreation Director. I think David Bradshaw and I got the first 2 way back when at the Cedar Hill dedication.
Yes, absolutely. I was going to try to see if I could call up here. I believe I have a picture of that. Was that Dan?
Yes,
that was Dan.
Yeah. I believe I have a picture of it right here. So let me see if I can share my screen again. See if that'll call up right there. Share. Call this up.
Are you doing
Yeah,
it?
there we go.
We're seeing it.
Okay, great. Yeah, so here's a beautiful patch. So if you hike, I think there's 11 trails, and as Stan mentioned, maybe 50 or 60 miles or something like that, you get this really pretty patch from the city of Oak Ridge and Greenway's Oak Ridge. And we've had almost 20 hikers in our group earn this patch over the past 2 years. Okay.
All
Anything
right.
else, Ray?
Very good. Thanks, Steve. We appreciate you being with us. And as was offered by Alexa, if you want to ask Steve a question, and you'll send it to me on email, draysmith@comcast.net, I'll get you an answer to it from either Steve or from Alexa. Steve, again, thank you.
Yeah,
very
thank
much
you.
for joining us, and we
Yeah,
really
thank you.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Ray, and thank you, everyone. Ray's been wonderful for our group, so thank you.
You bet. If you'll stop sharing
Okay,
the
bye-bye.
screen now.
Okay, stop share. Okay,
All right.
There
Thank
you
you
go.
very much.
thank you. Yep.
Mike Stallo, I think I've made you a co-host as well. If you'd like to join us now and share some information that you've researched over the last week, we'd be happy to have you.
Okay, Ray, thanks. I was going to follow up on my the line recorder ladies that I mentioned last week. The pictures are elusive, but I was going to try to share my screen. I think I've got one shot. Let's see here. Yes. Let's see. Yeah. Can you guys see that one?
Yes, you
Yeah.
are sharing your
Okay.
screen, and we do
All right.
see,
And this
do
is
see the picture.
okay. And these are some line recorder ladies at work with a supervisor there in the K25 building. And if you've seen, I'll try to blow it up a little bit. If you've seen the K25 girls, kind of a similar, obviously the same time period and a similar task. Although I do think the line recorder ladies had to do a little bit more math, if I understand it correctly. Let's see. And I'm going to see if it'll let me cut another photo. Let's see here. Yeah. And this is of course, it is Women's History Month. So that fits in. I know we don't have a lot of time. I was just going to say, I'm going to deviate for half a second and just show this photo here is just an unusual aspect of we mentioned odd K25 or odd history pieces. You may recognize the K25 building here, and I'm not sure if this blows up when I do this, but
Yes.
Of course here's the footprint of the K25. Well, a lot of people don't know. My old coworker RP Prince and myself used to study a lot about K25 and the other buildings. And we had seen in the literature that when they built K27, they originally called it K26. And for years, people argued with us, no, they didn't. You see this footprint right here, so it says K26. And that was before they named it K27. That was before they built it, obviously. They've got it mapped out there. So we found a reference in a logbook of them saying the K26 building. First, we didn't know what it was, and was it never built? But it turned out it actually was the K25 building in its planning stages. And then the story is that General Groves didn't want, he thought it would be too obvious if they found out about K25 and knew anything about it, the spies or whoever, that K26 would be too easy to find. And so he said, let's skip a number. So they skipped to K27 just to be, I guess, a little harder to find. It spend time looking for K26 that didn't exist. So it was just one of those really little details that we used to hunt down. And this map is obviously pretty old before K27 was built. Let's see. And I was going to point out that I did enjoy George's presentation. We do have a lot of hikers that come in the library and a lot of people from out of town that come in the library seeking information about trails or people new to town. And we do have those brochures that he had there available. So if you can't find one there anywhere else, you can come to Curbside now, pick one up. And in other library news, we are going to open back up, which you may have seen, but we're going to open back up on March 29th. And it'll be kind of a gradual opening, but we are going to be fully open as far as availability to the books. And you can, wear a mask and that kind of thing, come in the library with a plan to open fully in May, at the end of May. That's tentative, but we're hopeful. Full hours and full service and everything by May. So I know we are running a little short on time, so I was going to do the homework session. Since it is Women's History Month, I wanted to point out there's a lady named Maria Geffert Mayer, who is a Nobel Prize winner. And I kind of pushed her a little bit onto the K25 Museum folks. They didn't necessarily bite on her. She wasn't here, but she worked on gaseous diffusion at the same lab. And where I worked at, we had the same lab medical records. Kind of strange. We ended up with them, some New York records, and we had a few Chicago records, the same lab, special alloys, materials, uranium lab. We had her medical record. And so it indicated obviously that she spent some time working during the Manhattan Project, at the same lab. And so I just kind of want to highlight her for Women's History Month. You might Google her, look her up or whatever. She won a Nobel Prize, and she shared that Nobel Prize with her own Eugene Wigner, of course, who was, spent a lot of time in Oak Ridge. She was one of the three recipients in 1963. So she did have input into the Manhattan Project and indirectly to Oak Ridge in the development stages. So anyway, she'd be a good person to look up. She's very interesting career. Broke a lot of barriers on her way through, college, and worked for nothing at a college basically as a teacher because she enjoyed physics so much that she just stayed there and eventually gained, respect and came, obviously she won a Nobel Prize. So the discovery of the nuclear shell, the theory of the idea of the nuclear shell, and then the formulation of it, and Wigner and Jensen, they shared that Nobel Prize.
And what was her name again?
Maria Goeppert, which is Goeppert, Mayer, Mayer. She was married to Richard Mayer, who's another physicist, sort of pre-Manhattan Project era. They're a little bit older than and one other one is Elizabeth Rona, who a lot of you may have heard of, is also sort of that era. I think Elizabeth might have been a few years older, and she worked, pre-Oak Ridge, worked for Marie Curie's lab and things. But Elizabeth, I think, ended up living in Woodland. Her last died in Oak Ridge. Did a lot of work. Did some work during the Manhattan Project, and of course, moving forward, she came here, consulted some. Those are two ladies to check out during the month. It's kind of sad we're not open at the library at the moment. I like to do those displays of these, for the History Month, but maybe we'll do some virtual displays. That's about all I have, Ray.
All right. Anyone, and Elizabeth Rona I have a book about her that you may have in the library as well. Any questions for Mike? Anyone, just unmute and ask your question if you want to follow up with him. Well, Mike, we thank you very much for being with us on all three of our sessions this time. We
Thank you.
Really appreciate that.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right. Is there any
Thanks,
question
Mike.
that you have, any of you have of me? I have one more thing I'm going to do quickly before we end and try to share
some comments.
that screen with you on what's happening in the demolition in Oak Ridge in the coming months and years. I've got a little bit about that. There was a question, Yuri.
I have some comments.
Go ahead.
I was on the team that was safeguarding plutonium in Russia. And one of the places we went to visit was Zagworsk. And Zagworsk is the one that he showed us today. It has many similarities with Oak Ridge. Mm-hmm. They have K26 and we have K25. They are on the Yenisei River and we are on the Tennessee River. They were a secret city and we were a secret city.
How about that?
They have a huge dam, the biggest dam in Russia, in their area, which produces a lot of electricity. It's depicted on the 10 or 20 ruble money piece. And we have Alcoa, and they have the parallel of Alcoa producing aluminum, because aluminum requires a lot of electric power
Mhm.
to purify. And one other anecdote, one time they sent me out there with a one-way ticket. And Zheleznogorsk is in East Siberia, and it was a very isolated city. And they sent me with a one-way ticket because they claimed they couldn't get the return ticket. It was an odd feeling to go there with a one-way ticket. That's kind of what I had to say.
Well, thank you very much. You had a great.
They gave me some money to buy a ticket back,
Yeah.
and I obviously made it back somehow.
Yeah, yes, you did, and we're glad you did. That's really great to have some local color added to our stories that Alexei gave us. So you could identify really well with what he was talking about. You've been there to some of those cities. Dan, you had a comment or question?
I had a comment because I have to leave in a minute. On every year when they draw down Milton Lake, there's a group of volunteers that meets at the marina and does lakeshore pickup. And this year, that date is Saturday, April the 27th. And so if any of the people on this Zoom would join us, Greenway's Oak Ridge and the Oak Ridge Breakfast Rotary Club provide people, and TVA provides us with grabbers and bags and gloves. And so 9 a.m. that Saturday morning with Sunday the next day at 2 p.m. is the rain date. We'd love to have as many help as people can do it.
Very good. Thanks, Dan. That is a good service. Rotary Club, Breakfast Rotary sponsors, and I've enjoyed participating in that in years past. Look forward to it this year. Any other comments?
And the other
Yes.
The other comment I have is it was news to me that there is a tunnel under Blankenship Field. Do you know anything about that? That's the first time I'd heard about it.
Oh yes. When Dr. Bass and John Jefferson were writing the book, The Bones of Betrayal, they came to me and wanted me to provide them some information, historical information, and I did. I took them out to Katie's kitchen and showed them that silo out there that used to be a guard tower. They were looking for a spot to write into their book for a murder during the Manhattan Project. Now their book starts off with a murder victim being found in the old swimming pool up by the Alexander Inn when it was a swimming pool there. And then they write the story right into the story about the sewer line that runs and actually runs from near Jackson Square, yeah, kind of under Blankenship Field, but anyway, up in that area, and you can actually walk through that tunnel there, that sewer line, down to the library, all the way down to that part of Oak Ridge. Now, kids used to ride bicycles down in that sewer line, so it is a huge sewer line that runs there. I've never been in it, but John Jefferson did literally go through that sewer line himself and popped himself up down near the downtown area because he wanted to write that into the story. So it's the sewer system is what it is. It's not a real tunnel.
Okay, thanks.
You bet. Any other question? That was a good one. Thank you for that. All right, let me see if I can share my screen and I'll show you just a few slides. We've got a few more minutes here, and I'll show you what's going on now and going to be happening in the near future about some of the demolition. So let me see if I can do this. Go here and share that. I hope you're seeing the
No.
picture of the frilled
Yes.
spin cabin. All right, so we're going to
Yes.
jump quickly down. Now you're seeing the K25 site, East Tennessee Technology Park. All of the green has been demolished. Those are all gone now. And this is what they're doing at present, soil remediation. They're just putting the finishing touches on it. The K33 site you see at the lower right is just a huge green field. And that's an area that's soon to be populated with a new industry coming into town. And then the next generation cleanup, that's where they're moving ahead. Now, let me show you these three. The Heritage Center, Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and Y12. That's where they're beginning to advance the next activities that they're doing. They, some of the history, launched a cleanup integration initiative, standing meetings for all personnel at each site. Now, let me go to this one. The waste treatment infrastructure, that's one of the things that's going to be coming down over at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory. And at ORNL, the gas-cooled reactor, EGCR, being prepared in June of 2021. They'll begin taking that down. Again, the Oak Ridge Research Reactor, removal of the first floor and basement universal waste items are already underway as we speak. They're deactivating some areas over at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory. And this one, the demolition of building 3026 will be completed by the summer of 2021. In Y12, they've actually just completed tearing down the first of the biology building complexes or complex. And they're beginning deactivation on Alpha 2, Beta 1, the old steam plant, and 9213, the critical experiment facility that's over on the south side of Chestnut Ridge. All of those are being planned for demolition. They've just completed 9210 at Y12, and they're beginning to work on 9207. It's scheduled to be the next one that will be demolished there. And this is the last slide. The Colex demolition is ready, and research reactors. A lot of activity going on in 2021 as far as demolition goes for, now let's stop that. Okay, I wanted to share that with you just to let you know that a lot of activity is taking place, and that the demolition activity is moving out of K25 site over into the Oak Ridge National Laboratory and to the Y12 site. So we've got just about 3 or 4 more minutes. What questions do you have of me? What would you like for me to be thinking about? We're going to do this again in the summer series. I'm just delighted to be able to do that again for you. And I hope you've enjoyed what we've done this time by bringing you some, what I think are some unique aspects to our history. So any final thoughts or questions you have?
I think it's great, and I'm so glad you're doing it in the summer. Are there any particular aspects you're going to be focused on in the summer?
At this point, I'm just full of what I've just done.
Oh, sure. I don't blame you at all. Do you want any suggestions?
I do. I would love suggestions. What would you like to hear?
Okay. I can't think of anything right now, but I'd like to know a little more about the history of ORIU.
Oh, excellent.
Because it's their 75th.
Yeah.
It's their 75th celebration or anniversary this year.
It is. I will do that. I'll focus on ORAU. And as you know, Fanny worked there for 35 years, so
Yeah,
she'll be
I worked with
delighted.
her, I know.
I know you did. Yeah, she'll be delighted we're focusing on that. And I'll get with Pam and Bonnie
Yeah.
and others. We'll, I wish we had thought of this before Roger Cloutier passed away. He would have been a delight
No, he was great.
for us to have on here. But I'm sure we can find some other folks that have knowledge of the history, and I'll talk to them between now and then, and we'll try to feature ORAU in the summer series. And again, I
Okay,
welcome,
thanks.
welcome any thoughts or questions on my email, or I'm on Facebook, any way you can get to me. And if you have suggestions for next summer, please send them to me any way you want to. Yeah, someone was making a comment.
The isotope production program would be of interest.
Yeah, okay, thank you. The isotope production. And oh, by the way, one of the companies that's moving into the East Tennessee Technology Park over on Duck Island is going to be an isotope production facility. So maybe we can even share some current history about what's developing in Oak Ridge as well. As I agree with you, that isotope production history is something that's very worthwhile. And Jim Campbell is doing a lot of looking into that, wants to write a book about it. So I know I can get him to come on and talk to us about the history of isotope production in Oak Ridge. So there's two things we'll do for sure, ORAU and isotope production. Thank you all very much.
I'd like to hear about banking, Oak Ridge banking. We've had a lot of different banks, and the banks have changed names and so forth.
Okay.
Who used to be with bank,
Well,
he's
that's
here.
good. Yes, I'll be glad to include banking. By the way, one of Fanny's first job when we came to Oak Ridge was in the Bank of Oak Ridge, and she was a secretary to the president of the bank at that time. And so we will do some research on the bank in Oak Ridge. Mr. Maxwell, Don Maxwell, was her boss. And of course, Donna, his daughter, is still in Oak Ridge. And I think she is. She was running the hot bagel shop. She closed it just a few months ago. But I saw her speaking on Facebook just in the last few days about the rowing. She was connected close to the rowing. And so we'll talk to Donna about her dad, Don Maxwell. And I'm sure we can find some other folks that know about history of banking in Oak Ridge. So I've got 3 subjects for sure that'll be a part of the summer series. Okay? All right.
All right.
Thank you all very much for being with me. And
Thank you, Ray. Good job.
And
Thank
we'll
you,
see.
Ray.
All right.
Your
Excellent
guests were
presentation.
wonderful. I
Thank you.
enjoyed all
Appreciate
your
it.
guests.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ray.
Uh-huh.
All right. Bye.